Hey everyone. So, I've spent the last few years writing music for film, television, and gaming, specializing oftentimes in book adaptations. So, think like giant fantasy, sci fi, horror worlds, musical world building, working with orchestras around the world, musicians around the world, working with great composing teams, projects that were probably inspired by some of my favorite book series and maybe some of yours as well. This video is a little bit about something very different, a very personal project I'm working on, collection of singles that's going to make up an EP called Face the Music, one single of which, the title track, will be released next week. So why am I talking about this in this video? I was constantly reminded throughout this process of how we have these different aspects of our creative life, our creative journey that make us who we are. Maybe what we choose to do is something slightly different than those things, but the whole is greater than the sum of parts. Sometimes in choosing a particular type of goal, we leave those other things behind. My keyword for 2026 is a little bit about integrating these different types of aspects of my life. So I figured I would use this video as a little bit of a primer of we all have these different aspects of our lives that maybe we could all integrate as well in our own creative endeavors. So let me give you a little bit of context. So up until about 10 years ago, I played in a number of bands. I actually created one called Dream Alive that was very influenced by late 60s, early 70s introspective songwriting, kind of some of those rock and roll, classic rock, and singer-songwriter influences that I loved so much. But I was also really obsessed with film scoring, and about 10 years ago, I started to realize I love narrative development, I love character development, I want to get into other characters besides my own, and write for picture. So if I could write for every day for the rest of my life, I would be a very happy person. So about 10 years ago, I made the switch, and I started writing orchestral music. Very different than the kind of rock and roll and classic rock singer-songwriter stuff. And in doing so, I feel like I really broadened my musical horizons. I got a chance to work on a show called The Wheel of Time, which is based on one of my favorite fantasy book series ever. I'd read the entire 15-book series, I had put together an orchestral pitch for it, and I got chosen by Lorne Balfe to be on his scoring team. That led directly to not only working with the showrunner, working with the production team at Amazon, but also getting to work with live ensembles from around the world. But the interesting thing was one of my last assignments on that show was to write a song, a musical number that was sung by the main cast called The Hills of Tanchico. And I started digging back into my songwriting roots, which started to make me think about, there's other aspects of myself I've left behind and I want to kind of try to reintegrate those back into the larger whole. And I think we all benefit from doing that, taking these separate boxes, we try to so not to confuse the audience. I was a songwriter, now I am only a composer. I didn't want to do that anymore. I wanted to be like, you know what? I am interested in these different things. How do I put it into a cohesive whole? So this was more of an experiment, and it's led to some really interesting things for me. So I wanted to kind of talk about that a little bit in this video and hopefully inspire some of you who have been putting maybe some of your lives in separate boxes, and maybe we can all integrate it and create a richer life and a richer music or creative pursuit as well. So let's talk about kind of the present day. So I decided to write a few songs that represented where I'm at spiritually, mentally, culturally, emotionally after a 10-year break from writing songs. And it was very interesting because I started really going in deep, kind of facing my personal demons, and the EP ended up becoming called Face the Music. It's about confronting oneself. But it was also very influenced by those late 60s, 70s songwriters that I'd fallen in love with in my youth, coupled with a little bit more of that cinematic scoring as well. So the one EP kind of became three, and they're all interconnected and very loosely inspired by Walden by Henry David Thoreau, and about the idea of self-reliance, about self-introspection. And the nexus of books, cinematic music, and songwriting has kind of all started to coalesce into some sort of a cohesive whole. So I'm very excited to share it with you all. But more importantly, I wanted to write something with lyrical honesty that is not just hiding behind other characters, but maybe kind of diving into my own. And because of this, not only did I get a chance to write songs that were inspired by a period of time that I've fallen in love with, and I think is a golden era of songwriting, but also I got to hire a 20-piece string section in Budapest and record directly with those players using my orchestral knowledge to kind of create songs that have a cinematic vibe to them as well. I think like when you're scoring a story, you're scoring characters, you're scoring their own motivations that are independent from yours, and you're getting into the mind of those particular characters. I kind of wanted to get into the mind of my own. And I think we can all benefit from integrating different aspects of our lives. I know composers who have been going into songwriting. I know composers who have interest and experience in topics that are quite different than the actual musicality of what they do. One of my composer friends is fascinated by outer space, and she found a very clever way to kind of create opportunities for her, integrating her love of outer space into a concept album, and thereby leading her to composing gigs related to outer space installations and things like that. So, I guess the main point about this video is, yes, this is an announcement of my Face the Music song and EP, but really more, it's about kind of an intentionality of like, I want to integrate these different aspects of myself. And I also pose the question to you. Maybe there's some aspects of yourself that are very different, maybe seemingly disparate. And how can you integrate those into a cohesive whole? I think like our careers really benefit from these types of mental exercises. I think with AI and algorithms really starting to inform how we even make content on these platforms or how we make our art, it's really important to take aspects of yourself that are unique to you. So this is my attempt to do the same. I'm going to give you a quick snippet of Face the Music, which is going to be out a week from today as of this tape.
Now it's time to face the music. No turning back and no more lies. To see myself behind the fears I once denied.
So that was Face the Music, or at least a part of it. I hope you enjoy this if you get a chance to listen to it. I know that this album is kind of a creative engine for everything I do, which is really storytelling. Just so happens that this storytelling is of my own. So let me know what you think about it in the comments. I'm curious also if you're creatives, if you're looking to integrate aspects of your life into a cohesive whole, and kind of what drives you, what motivates you as a creative person. But let me know in the comments. And thanks so much for watching. I'm Nikhil Koparkar, composer for film, television, and gaming, specializing in book adaptations, and now narrative storytelling in the form of albums. Hope you enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. Be good to yourselves, be good to each other, and I'll see you as always on the next one. Take care.